Hi, Felix. It is time for your story for this week. Now, when I was little, your great grandfather used to read me stories by a guy named Rudyard Kipling that were called Just So stories. This is what I would call a probably not so story. This is the story of why the rhinoceros has a pointy horn on his face. Most people don't know this, but way back at the beginning, rhinoceros didn't have pointy horns. They had stumpy horns. It looked like a little tree stump or a drum stuck on their bed. They were straight out and flat at the end and round. There were some problems with these. One was that they couldn't really see around it very well, so all the rhinoceroses, whenever they tried to run places, they would run into trees and run into each other and other animals. But the biggest problem was what would happen at the end of the day. The rhinos would be all tired from running around and playing and dancing and chasing birds and running into trees. So at the end of the day, they would lie down. They'd lie down with their arms up front, and they'd just kind of put their chin up and rest it on the ground. But when they did that, their stumpy horns would be sitting right there, and monkeys would come running over to sit and rest on the rhino's horns. Rhino would say, "Why are you doing that? What is going on?" And the monkey would say, "Well, it's so comfy. It's a nice flat surface. I'm tired from swinging tree to tree. I'd like to sit down at the end of the day." So they would sit there on the rhino's stumpy face, which was kind of inconvenient and unpleasant for the rhinos. They didn't much care for it. And they would probably have put up with it until some of the rhinos got the idea, hey, we could work out this deal with like straps and things, and we could, make a seat belt, and then we could ride around on the rhino's stumpy nose all day. And the rhino said, well, this has got to stop. So they tried several ideas to make the monkeys stop sitting on their stumpy noses. They would rub their stumpy noses in the dirt so that they were all smelly, but the monkeys didn't much mind. They tried painting their noses so that their noses would be wet paint, because people don't sit on things with wet paint because they get the paint on themselves, but the monkeys didn't mind that either. They even thought maybe they could make them feel uncomfortable by being stared at, so the rhinos would sit down in a group facing each other so that they could stare at each other's nose monkeys. But the monkeys just brought a card table and set it up between them and had a picnic lunch and played bridge and that sort of thing. So there was one rhino who finally got the idea that if we wanted to make the monkeys stop sitting on the noses, he would go to a man in the village, a man who was a great carver, and he would have his nose whittled down to a point. So he had his nose turned into a sharp, pointy horn. The next time a monkey went to sit on it, the monkey jumped up and said, "Ouch, that's very uncomfortable. Why did you do that?" So, well, I didn't want you to sit on the face anymore. So the monkeys ran away, stopped sitting on their faces, and as a bonus, the next time the rhino with the pointy nose went down to the water hole and he saw trees coming, he would just swoop around them. And the other rhinos said, "Well, how the heck are you doing that?" He said, "Well, with the thing whittled down, I can see and steer better." So pretty soon, although it seemed like it was kind of funny looking at first, pretty soon, all the rhinos went in for the pointy horn fashion. And that is how rhinos ended up having mostly pointy horns on their face. That is a probably not so story. I will see you again next week. Love you.